Welcome back to Kat's Kitchen. My name is Kat, and today we're gonna be talking about all things Nespresso. I put in a Nespresso order the other day. I got 4 different pods. 2 are my absolute favorite pods, and then I got 2 new pods that I have never tried before. So we're gonna do an unboxing followed by a taste test, and then I'm gonna walk you through some of my all-time favorite Nespresso recipes, just to show you a few options of drinks you can make yourself at home using a Nespresso, and my favorite Nespresso pods. And then I'll answer some frequently asked questions I receive all the time regarding Nespresso machines, like are they worth it? Do they taste like coffee shop quality? What pods are best? All sorts of things like that. So let's unbox this baby. Ta-da! I got 5 total sleeves. My absolute favorite Nespresso pods are the double espresso dolce. Every time I use them, I'm like, okay, yeah, these are good. I've tried a good amount of their espresso ones. Some of them are just way too light and watered down. Others are way too dark and bitter. The double espresso dolce are my absolute fave and my go-to if I'm making anything espresso based. White mochas, regular mochas, lattes, hot or iced, caramel macchiatos, shaken espresso, anything that has espresso in it, I like to use the double espresso dolce pods. The double espresso dolce are more like a lighter roast to me. Technically, they're on like the medium roast scale, but I feel like they're the same strength as like a normal light roast coffee, and I really like them. Again, they're double espresso dolce pods, so they're 2 shots of espresso, which I like the double shot pods. I feel like most drinks I make call for a double shot, so I love those pods for that. So I got 2 sleeves of those. My second fave are the double espresso Cairo. These are a little bit more roasty, so these are an 8 on the scale versus the dolce are a 5. So these are a little bit darker. They're more like a medium roast to me. Also a double shot pod. I like these a lot. These are like my backup fave. First choice is double espresso dolce, second fave double espresso Cairo. And again, I use them the same way with any latte, mocha, white mocha, shaken espresso, etc. They're just a slightly darker, more roasty flavor, and not like as sweet. The dolce ones have a little bit of sweetness. The Cairo ones, not really. And then a new one I got are the Brew organic. These are single espresso pods. These are both double, so they're like 2.7 ounces. This one is a 1.35 ounce, and it's a 6 on the 11 scale. So kind of in the middle between the double espresso dolce and the Cairo. These are a 5, these are an 8, this is a 6. So I was curious about this just to see if they were kind of like a light roast, a medium roast. And I like often enjoy coffee that's from Peru, like Peru origin. So I thought these would be fun to give it a try. I don't know if these are limited edition, but they look like this, Brew organic. And then the last ones I bought, these are also new. These ones are the Cafecito de Puerto Rico, coffee from Puerto Rico. I am half Puerto Rican, if you didn't know. And so I thought these would be fun to try, to make kind of like a café con leche recipe. These are also espresso. These are a double espresso pod. So they're 2.7 ounces, just like the Dolce and the Cairo. These are a 10 out of 11 on the scale. So I am a little bit concerned I'm not gonna love them just because they're gonna be super strong and bold, but that is pretty characteristic of typical Puerto Rican coffee. It's very, 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 very strong, very bold. We always say in my family, it'll grow hair on your chest. So I'm expecting that from these pods. I just thought that would be fun to try and just get a little bit of a different flavor from a darker roast pod, specifically Puerto Rico. And these are supposed to have dark cocoa flavor notes. So I'm interested and curious to see exactly what those taste like. And then these are the sample packs. They gave me a Melozio and a decaf Melozio. I don't know what that is. Are they espresso? Oh no, these are coffee. So these are 2 coffee pods, the 7.77 ounces. I'm not gonna taste test these today, but those are the ones they got me. So let's brew all of the espresso pods, the Dolce, the Cairo, the Peru ones, and the Puerto Rico ones. And we'll create recipes with them as well. All right, the pods have all been brewed, and I just want to note some differences right away. Number 1, you'll notice that these 3 pods are larger. There's less liquid in this cup because this Brew organic one is a single shot pod and the rest are all double shot pods. You could even see, you know, the drastic difference in size between the 4 pods. Other than that, there's not a huge difference. I was thinking that the Puerto Rico one would be, you know, super duper dark, which I guess it is darker. This one definitely does look darker in the light compared ever so slightly. I thought it'd be like drastically noticeably different. Oh, this one does smell much darker. Whew, I'm excited. I just want to do a slight little taste test of the 2 new pods. That one's pleasant. It tastes fruity, a little bitter. This is the Puerto Rico one. Definitely dark roast. Holy moly. Much darker than that one. Definitely dark. But I like both of them. Neither of them are like, ugh, gross. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with both. Let's jump right into the recipes. We're gonna do an iced white mocha using the double espresso dolce pod, a hot mocha using the double espresso Cairo, and then I'm gonna do a brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso using the Peru organic, and a cafe con leche with the Puerto Rico pod. So let's jump into the recipes. Ingredients you will need to make an iced white mocha: white chocolate sauce. I love this one by Torani. You also need espresso, which we have here, pulled from our Nespresso machine using the double espresso dolce pod. Then you need some milk, literally whatever milk you like, 1%, 2%, whole milk, almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk, whatever milk you like, some ice, and then some Cool Whip to top. Very first step, adding in the white chocolate sauce into the bottom of your cup. I do about a tablespoon or so. Use more, use less. And then adding in the espresso shots. Give that a mix. You absolutely could add the white chocolate sauce right into the little espresso cup and then brew the espresso right over the top. It's the same thing. Mix until that white chocolate sauce is dissolved. And then I like to add milk next to cool down this mixture before adding ice. And when I'm using Nespresso pods, I like to do about 6 ounces of milk for any latte, mocha, caramel macchiato. Usually Starbucks uses like 8 to 10-ish ounces of milk for a double shot, but I've noticed with Nespresso espresso, it's just slightly not as strong as espresso coming out of an espresso machine, so I don't use quite as much milk because I don't want it to taste too watered down. I think 6 ounces of milk is perfect using a double espresso pod. If you're doing 2 of the double shot pods, so 4 total shots of espresso, I would use 10 ounces of milk for all my espresso based drinks. Then next we add some ice. I buy a bag of ice from Sonic. It's Pebble Ice. You get a 10-pound bag for $3.25. I was making up a mess. Cool. I try to add a good amount of ice, especially when we're using the Nespresso machine because the espresso comes out so hot. So fill the cup up with ice and then we mix. Mix until the entire cup is cold to the touch. So right now only the top is cold, like where the ice is. So I want to mix this drink until the entire cup is cold to the touch, meaning the entire latte or the entire white mocha is chilled. Every ounce is going to be nice and cold, and I'm not going to slurp up warm milky mixture at the bottom. And there we go. Now it is nice and chilled throughout. And the last step is adding whipped cream. And ta-da! Beautiful iced white mocha. Let's do a quick taste test. Oh, delicious. Creamy. You still get that coffee flavor. Delish. I love white mocha. So easy to make at home with literally just a few ingredients, and espresso that we made in 40 seconds and no skill required. Just pop in the pod, push start, and you can make any espresso-based drink at home. That was our iced white mocha recipe. Let's get into the hot mocha recipe. All right, next recipe is a hot mocha. Ingredients you'll need: milk, again, whatever kind of milk you like. I like 6 ounces. Dark chocolate sauce. I love this one by Torani, but you could use whatever chocolate syrup or chocolate sauce you like. You can even use a piece of chocolate, like a chocolate bar. Double shot of espresso. I'm using the double shot we pulled using the double espresso Cairo Nespresso pod. And then some Cool Whip. Cool Whip? Did I say Cool Whip on the other one? I did, huh? Whipped cream. You can use Cool Whip too. You need whipped cream. That's awesome. This recipe is so simple, just like the iced white mocha. The only difference is we're using hot milk and no ice. And then of course, swapping out the white chocolate sauce for a dark chocolate sauce. So if you wanted to make this a hot white mocha version, just switch out the dark chocolate sauce and use the white chocolate sauce. We already have the espresso brewed. So I'm going to microwave these 6 ounces of milk. There's just 1% milk in here. I'm gonna microwave this for 60 seconds and then we're gonna froth to steam the milk. Okay, milk has been warmed. Always sounds like milk has been warmed. Makes me laugh. I'm just using another cup to show you what the milk looks like because I'm gonna froth it, but you can just use it in the same cup. 6 ounces of warm milk, and then using a handheld milk frother. This one doesn't create heat or anything. That's why we had to warm up the milk. I'm just gonna froth the milk, basically creating texture, creating bubbles, making the milk kind of increase in volume so it's nice and fluffy, airy, textured milk. For a hot latte, you need steamed milk. Typically, steamed milk you get from an espresso machine. Hot air comes out of the steam wand and circulates and creates lots of texture, bubbles, heat, and that's what gives you that real smooth, velvety hot latte texture. So that's kind of what we're trying to replicate right here without a steam wand. Warming the milk and creating texture. So we get that velvety, smooth, milky texture just without a steam wand. If you did get an Aeroccino with your Nespresso machine, awesome, use that. You can totally just add your milk, turn it on the hot setting, and it'll froth your milk up and warm it. So that's basically exactly what we're doing. And look, already this cup is like 16 ounces and it definitely doubled in size because I added 6 ounces of milk and here we are at like, looks like 12 ounces. That's what we want. We want it to double in volume, get nice and fluffy and airy. It's like a really nice thick texture. So to my coffee mug, adding in about a tablespoon or so of the Torani dark chocolate sauce, espresso, double espresso Cairo pod or double shot of espresso. Mix that together just like we did for that iced white mocha, just until the chocolate sauce dissolves. Just a few little stirs and then adding in our steamed milk right on top. And look at this velvety, smooth, foamy texture. It's so perfect. I'm gonna do a little quick taste because I need to add the whipped cream still and it's gonna spill over. Oh my gosh, so good. That milk texture is just delightful. It's so good and so easy. You don't need a espresso machine. Whipped cream on top. Beautiful, and you can totally add a little bit more dark chocolate drizzle if you like. And that's recipe number 2, hot mocha, using the Nespresso machine. One more taste with the whipped cream to get, you know, the full effect. Delish. Oh my gosh. I promise you, you will not miss going to the coffee shop. It's so easy. It truly, truly tastes delicious. Took very minimal effort, very few ingredients, no time at all. You don't need Starbucks, okay? You don't. You need an espresso machine. Let's move on to recipe number 3. Recipe number 3 is a brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso, one of my all-time favorite drinks in general, and definitely one of my favorite drinks to make using a Nespresso machine. Ingredients you will need: espresso. I did go ahead and brewed another pod of the Peru organic espresso pods because these were the single shot pods. And always for my espresso based drinks, I like to use a double shot of espresso at the very minimum. 1 shot is just not enough coffee in my opinion. So I used 2 of the pods. Then you need oat milk. I like the Chobani extra creamy or the Oatly barista edition. Both you can get at the grocery store. And then you need brown sugar cinnamon syrup, or you can just use regular brown sugar and ground cinnamon and use that in place of the syrup. I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of this brown sugar cinnamon one. They say it tastes like Fireball without the alcohol. I've never felt like the cinnamon was too strong, ever, never ever. I've come to the conclusion some are more sensitive to cinnamon than others. I don't get a strong cinnamon vibe. I get cinnamon, but also some sweetness and brown sugar, but just a heads up on that one. Also, I don't like the sugar-free version of this syrup. I only like the regular. And then you need some ice. That's it. I also do want to mention that if you want to make any of the shaken espressos, you can just swap out the syrup. If you want to make a toasted vanilla shaken espresso, use the Torani vanilla bean syrup. If you wanted to do the hazelnut oat milk shaken espresso, use the hazelnut syrup. So any shaken espresso recipe you want to make, just swap out the syrup. Easy peasy. It doesn't have to be the brown sugar one. First thing I do is add in the Torani brown sugar cinnamon to a mason jar. I specifically use a mason jar because we're going to shake this mixture up. Then my double shot of espresso using 2 of the Peru organic espresso pods. I actually like that flavor a lot, so I'm excited to try it in a shaken espresso. And then ice, and you want to use a good amount of ice. So I almost fill up the little mason jar, almost to the top. Keep in mind we are going to add oat milk still, so don't fill to the very, very top, but a good amount. That way we're chilling down the drink without it getting too watered down from the hot espresso. And if you have larger ice cubes, I do also recommend using those instead of the pebble ice, just because the pebble ice cubes will melt faster, but not like a huge deal. See how much ice is in this mason jar? I almost filled it to the top. Some of it will melt because the espresso is pretty warm. Add a lid and just shake it up. Shake until the entire mixture is like nice and frothy and cold. Again, cold to the touch, just like we did with that iced white mocha. The entire jar should be chilled. And then top it off with oat milk. This is gonna be about 4 to 6 ounces of liquid. If you want more, use more. Let's get those bubbles out. Oh my gosh, that tastes so good. A little bit more oat milk, just a smidge. 4 to 6 ounces. And look how delicious that looks. Oh my word. Taste test. Wowie. Oh my gosh. I love these pods. Like love. Wow. Absolutely delightful. Literally so easy. A grande shaken espresso is gonna cost you $6. Pushing 7. You can make this for half the price, like under $3. And that was so easy. Very minimal ingredients, no time at all. Get an espresso machine and make your own coffee at home. All right, let's jump into recipe number 4. For the 4th and final recipe, we're gonna make a café con leche, which is just coffee with milk, using the Puerto Rico pod. This is the Cafecito de Puerto Rico. So a double shot espresso pod. You need a little bit of sugar and then some milk. Whatever milk you like, whole milk, 1%, whatevs. First things first, adding the milk to a pot. This is 6 ounces of milk, and adding that to your burner. If you want, you can microwave the milk like we did for the hot mocha recipe. Totally up to you. The more traditional way is to warm a pot on the stove, so that's what we're gonna do. Just until it's like steaming a little bit, but not burning. Make sure you're stirring it often so it doesn't burn. We just want to warm up the milk, not boil it. Should take a few minutes. All right, I don't know if you can see it, but it is starting to steam quite a bit. So I'm just gonna remove this from the heat. And then the same process we did earlier, using the handheld milk frother, just create some bubbles in this pot. I should have gotten a bigger pot maybe. Should have gotten a bigger pot to do this. Gently froth to create some of that textured milk. Can you see what I'm doing? Creating some of that foam, that texture. You can do this in a coffee mug if you want. Beautiful bubbly texture, love it. Again, the volume has increased in size, that's awesome. We want it nice and thick and velvety. In your coffee cup, add your espresso. These are the Puerto Rico coffee pods. A little bit of sugar, as much or as little as you want. And then your milk, your steamed frothed milk. Yummy. Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna mix this a little bit. So beautiful. All right, and let's taste test this one. This one is like cappuccino-esque. That milk got super foamy. Oh wow, I like that pod a lot. Like a lot. I was afraid it would be too dark, but that's actually so pleasant. Delicious. Definitely a darker roast than all 3 of the other ones, but still delicious and makes a great cup of coffee. That is really fun. I like that one a lot. I think my second favorite are now the Puerto Rico ones. I think maybe the only reason they'll still be under the Cairo ones is just because they're a single shot pod and I prefer the double shot, because then to make a double espresso coffee, you need 2 pods every single time. So they're a little more pricey, but the flavor is very good. If you want to give them a try, I very much recommend. That's it for the 4 recipes. Let's clean up a little bit and we'll just go through some Nespresso-based questions. All right, let's answer some of the frequently asked questions I get about Nespresso machines. Number 1, how to make good coffee using a Nespresso machine. All of the recipes that we made today are my recommendations for how to make good coffee using a Nespresso. My typical ratio using a Nespresso machine, specifically espresso pods, is 1/2 to 1 tablespoon of syrup or sauce, 2 shots of espresso. I like to use a double shot pod, but you can use 2 single shot pods. And then I like 6 ounces of milk, whether it's oat milk, coconut milk, whatever kind of milk, 6 ounces. That's my ideal ratio, regardless if it's a hot latte, iced latte, mocha, shaken espresso, whatever. If I'm using a double shot pod, those are my ratios. If you want to up the espresso, 3 shots of espresso, just adjust the sweetness if you need, maybe do a full tablespoon. And then for the milk, just do 2 to 4 more ounces per pod. So a triple shot of espresso, I would do 8 ounces of milk. And for a quad shot of espresso, 4 shots, I would do 10 ounces of milk. And then I showed you my favorite pods today. The double espresso dolce and the double espresso Cairo are my faves. I also like the Bianco Doppio pods, and I loved the Peru organic espresso pods. I liked the Puerto Rico ones, but I wouldn't say that they're my absolute fave, and I don't know if I would buy them again. They're not bad, just not my fave compared to the other ones. Lots of questions about, do I need to use the specific Nespresso pods, or can I use my own coffee? So there's a couple options for refilling your pods. One, you can buy a reusable Nespresso pod, kind of like a reusable Keurig pod, where you would fill it with your coffee grounds and pop it in the Keurig machine and then just keep reusing that. They sell aluminum ones, I believe. You add your preferred ground coffee and then use the pod that way. Or you can reuse like these specific pods. For example, the double espresso dolce one, and they sell little stickers. So what you do is you cut out this little aluminum casing, just the top of it, and then you fill it with your coffee grounds and then add an aluminum sticker on top. Just make sure to not cover the barcode on the bottom, and it just kind of refills and reseals the Nespresso pod, and then you can reuse these. So there are options if you don't want to continually buy the pods, because they are pretty pricey, and it is much more cost effective if you refill them on your own. Some cons of refilling your pods: you risk the chance of damaging your machine. I have heard both sides. I do not consistently refill my pods and use that. I buy new pods. I've heard some people refill them and have done that for years, and their Nespresso machine is fine. And then I've heard the flip side, where people have tried refilling their pods and their machine breaks down and just stops working. Now, I don't know if they're, covering up the barcode or doing something funky that's causing the machine to freak out and glitch. I don't know, but I don't do that continually every single day. Maybe do some more research on your own and see what people are saying. Lots of questions about blonde espresso or light roast espresso pods. I used to use the Starbucks blonde roast espresso because I thought that was going to taste the most like Starbucks, and I used them for a long time and really enjoyed them. But then I started branching out and trying some new pods and just realized that the Starbucks blonde espresso pods, number one, they're only single shot pods, which again are my fave because then you have to use multiple. And then once I started trying other pods, I just realized the Starbucks ones were a little bit more watered down and didn't have nearly as much flavor. So if you like blonde roast pods, my recommendation, double espresso dolce. I'm telling you, they're delightful. I'm a blonde roast girly. I prefer blonde roast over medium roast. Definitely don't like dark roast espresso. Double espresso dolce pods are like the perfect roast level, in my opinion. Nespresso also has the Voltesso espresso pods. Those are like a specific light roast, like they're specified that they're light roast by Nespresso. Again, they're a single shot pod, not my fave, and they're like too light and watered down, very similar to the Starbucks blonde roast pods. Get the double espresso dolce or the double espresso Cairo if you are a Starbucks blonde espresso roast fan, or just a blonde espresso roast fan in general. Pros and cons of Nespresso machines. Pros: convenient. You saw me just pop in the pod, push a button, espresso. Super convenient, fabulous for anyone that's in a rush in the mornings, great for busy moms, great for college students. So convenient. You don't need any coffee making skills whatsoever. You just need the pods and the machine. You can even push the button, walk away, go get ready in the morning, come back and finish your coffee. I love that about the Nespresso machine. Very hands-off, super user-friendly. Another pro: it's cheaper than buying coffee from a coffee shop every single day. Most coffee places, not even just Starbucks, are charging $5, $6, $7 for a 16-ounce latte. Why is it costing that much money? I don't know. The pods range from anywhere from like $1 to $2-ish, depending on which pods you get. $2 $2 for espresso, and then the rest of the things you're using are gonna cost you pennies. You know, a little bit of syrup is gonna cost 12 cents. A little bit of milk is gonna cost you 25 cents. So you're gonna be making coffee for around $2 every single day, sometimes more expensive depending on the pods you're using, sometimes even cheaper. I would take a $2 coffee made from home, made consistently any day versus a $5, $6, $7 coffee that might be good, might not be good. Plus you don't have to wait in line at the coffee shop. So many different pros. I'm a firm believer in making coffee at home so that way you can have consistently good coffee every single day. I eventually got so frustrated with Starbucks because my coffee would be different every single day and my order was the same day after day after day. Some days the color would be perfect, other days the color would be off, it would be sweet or not sweet, they'd forget the whipped cream. Like every day was something different. I never knew if it was gonna be a great experience or a crappy one, and I was just spending so much money every single day on a drink that I can make myself at home. So I very much believe that if you're someone that is wanting consistency every day, you're sick of not knowing if your coffee is gonna be good or not, get an espresso machine. You are guaranteed consistency every single day. You're in control of your coffee, how much of everything goes in it, and it can be perfect every single day. Cons of Nespresso machines. Number one, the pods are pretty pricey. When compared to a bag of coffee beans that you would use in an espresso machine, the pods per serving are more expensive. So for example, one pod could be $1.25 for a double shot of espresso versus like 60 to 80 cents using coffee grounds. So that's already what, almost twice as much just for the coffee. So per, drink, now instead of it being a $2.50 coffee, using an espresso machine could very much be $1 or $1.20. Another con is the quality of the espresso. When you compare the quality of Nespresso espresso versus espresso machine espresso, they are very different. And I will say that espresso machine espresso is at a higher level than Nespresso espresso. Not to say that this tastes bad and you shouldn't get one, not at all. Just when you're comparing the two, it would make sense that a machine that costs a lot more is gonna produce a better end result. If quality of espresso is like your number one priority, you're like a strong, hardcore coffee lover, and you're like really wanting all the flavor notes and just enjoying every aspect of espresso, then espresso machine might not be for you because you're not gonna get super complex flavor notes. They're not really that diverse. Most of the pods taste very similar. I feel like the biggest difference is like the bitterness of each one and just kind of like, oh, that one's definitely darker tasting than the other, or that one's more mild and watered down. The quality of espresso is not at the same level as espresso machine espresso. But I do want to say that that doesn't mean you can't make great coffee at home, because you can. And you can absolutely make drinks using an espresso machine that tastes just as good, if not better, than Starbucks. But again, if you are a diehard espresso lover, maybe you even drink espresso by itself, you're not gonna wanna do that with an espresso machine. You will most likely benefit more from an espresso machine, like a Breville, maybe DeLonghi, Flair, something like that. Does Nespresso offer different pods? Absolutely. They have their single shot espresso pods, double shot espresso pods. They have the 7.7 ounce coffee pods, like the sampler one that they gave me. These are just regular brewed coffee. So what you would get from a Keurig or a coffee machine, French press coffee, all of that brewed coffee or filtered coffee, they have Nespresso pods for that. So it's about an 8 ounce cup of coffee per pod. So say one person in your family loves espresso based drinks and the other person just wants a cup of black coffee, Nespresso can offer both. Espresso machines cannot offer both. So I do think that is also a pro of a Nespresso machine. They have various options depending on what kind of coffee you like, espresso or brewed / filtered coffee. And they also have like iced coffee specific pods. So if you're a fan of iced coffee, they have basically a brewed coffee pod, a larger 8 ounce one, and then you brew that specifically over ice. I recommend brewing that over coffee ice cubes, just because they do get watered down if you're just adding it over ice, but they have that option too. So again, now you can do iced coffee, hot coffee, or espresso. Lots of different options with just one machine. Pretty cool. If you have another Nespresso-based question that I didn't answer today, absolutely drop it in the comments. I hope this video helped clear up any confusion around Nespresso machines. I hope it gave you some inspiration for which pods to use or to try, and also showed you some delicious recipes using the Nespresso machine. Drop your favorite Nespresso pods in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day. Mwah. God blast.